Hey guys, welcome back to Duality 7X. I'm your host, Shiraz. And guys, I want to talk about Conor McGregor, Max Holloway, part two. This is all going down UFC 329, and it's happening right around the corner, guys. And Conor McGregor, he was actually handed a pretty big warning from the UFC, and it has nothing to do with this power, nothing to do with this age, not even ring rust, but he did receive a very big warning about his comeback. So let's talk about this, guys, because according to UFC Hall of Famer Rashad Evans, there's one thing that Conor absolutely cannot allow against Max Holloway at UFC 329, and that's for Max Holloway to walk him down. And guys, we've seen it all too often with many different fighters, not just Conor McGregor, but honestly, when you really think about it, that in itself might be the entire fight, all right? Because if Holloway actually turns this into a pressure style kind of a fight, then he starts closing the distance. He's going to start forcing Conor McGregor backwards. And then we could actually be looking at a very, very different return than the one that not only Conor McGregor is preaching is going to happen, but what a lot of fans might be expecting as well. So there could be some disappointment there. You have to understand Max Holloway is active. He's ready to go. Conor McGregor has been out of the scene for like 5 years, broken leg, partied like a rock star. I mean, he's done movies. He had a very, very eccentric lifestyle. Uh, I mean, 2026, guys, it's a whole different animal. This isn't 2013 anymore. This isn't a young Max Holloway with with the developing game. This is arguably perhaps maybe one of the best, most experienced version of blessed, gifted that we've seen. This is what makes UFC 329 so interesting. This is why a lot of people talk about MMA. This is what makes it so explosive to watch because you could be looking at all the different stats for each fighter, their past history. You could be looking at their skill strengths, their technical abilities. And at the end of the day, guys, a fight's a fight. Anything can happen. As soon as those guys get into the octagon, as soon as that cage door closes, fireworks could ensue and it could be all over before you know it. Now, Conor McGregor, as you're aware, will be returning to the octagon next month. I just talked about it, UFC 329. This is the first time he's been returning since breaking his leg against Dustin Poirier back in 2021, 5 years ago, guys. And speaking of Dustin Poirier, he's been in the news for apparently being pulled over and being arrested by the police for a drinking and driving charge on Father's Day. But that's a whole different story. Dustin Poirier is he's a heck of a fighter. So look, Conor McGregor technically hasn't won a fight since stopping Donald Cerrone back in 2020. That's 6 years ago. And since then, we've had nothing but numerous injuries. We've had delays. We had a lot of drama, a lot of, you know, speculation, rumors, all kinds of like things related to Conor McGregor and his outside activity. Him getting into fights with people in random bars or just like, assault related um yeah, there's a lot of drama that follows Conor McGregor, unfortunately. I mean, he's also had movie roles, as I alluded to earlier. There was constant questions about whether or not the Notorious One was actually going to lace it up again, and if we're ever going to even see Conor McGregor fight again, because he is a heck of a fighter. He's very talented, but he's got a lot going on in his outside of the octagon life that kind of deters him from being, or for not only being that legacy fighter that everybody wants to see, but to be an active UFC champion. He's also flirted with the idea and the possibility of becoming Ireland's next president. In fact, he was even unofficially endorsed by Elon Musk, who was actually encouraging Conor McGregor to actually go for it. But I mean, there's like 20 different like councilman or something along those lines that, you have to get like approval from and what have you. And he was kind of running into some roadblocks when it came to that. And that was back in March of last year that he was kind of flirting with that idea. And then he just kind of subsequently dropped it. And then he started talking about, I'm starting to train. I want to get back into it and I want to get back into the octagon. And here we are, guys. Here we are, right? So, I mean, Conor McGregor is back. In what condition, we don't know. The last I saw Conor McGregor do anything was actually get into a boxing ring and fight a novice fighter. Just perhaps maybe he just wanted to kind of get the wheels wet a little bit, just to kind of get back into that feel. But to see him inside of an MMA, in an MMA format, like in an octagon, that's a whole different animal. That's a whole different animal. And so, of course, Rashad Evans had to chime in on this, and he kind of previewed the fight alongside George Masvidal, and he pointed out something that there was a lot of other people that actually saw the same thing, and essentially what he said, that whatever Conor does, he can't allow Max Holloway to dictate the pressure and to simply outpressure him, outpace him, because if that happens, Conor McGregor's mojo, his momentum is going to break, and as soon as Holloway smells blood, he's going to jump all over it, and that's it. The fight could be over before we know it, right? So the thing is with Max Holloway, that's what he does, and that's what he does best. He likes to break people down strategically, meticulously, kind of like an axe to a tree. That's what he does. He wears people down. And so the game plan, I'm sure, for Holloway is to do exactly that, exactly the same that he's done before. And this time, just continue to break Conor McGregor down, because the question that I think a lot of people are going to have for Conor McGregor when he gets inside the octagon, UFC 329 against Holloway, is, does the Notorious One still have stamina? Or what are his stamina levels like? Does he have enough gas in the tank to ward off the pressure that Max Holloway is going to exert, like right off the bat? And does he have enough to take him into the latter rounds? So these are some pretty big questions. And I mean, look, people also keep discussing Conor's left hand. They keep talking about that knockout threat. They keep talking about the old version of Conor McGregor and what Conor McGregor likes to do to people, especially in the octagon, and how crazy, how notorious one's fist is, his left hook, as so to speak. And I mean, if you're looking for the old version of Conor McGregor, like there's a lot of people that want to see the old version of Conor McGregor, then it's really going to be able to quantify whether or not the old Conor McGregor is actually going to come out, because we don't know what version of Conor McGregor is actually going to step into the octagon that night. What we do know is that he does want to make a comeback. He does want to compete. He wants to become an active fighter again, and he wants to go for gold. But in order for that to happen, he's going to have to beat guys like Max Holloway along the way. And that's no easy accomplishment, no easy feat. In fact, probably one of the hardest assignments that Conor McGregor is going to be tasked with in his first return. So, like, his first return to the octagon's not even going to be like a gentle one. It's not even going to be kind of like fighting an up and comer or a C class, B class fighter. He's going to be fighting a very, very strong opponent in Max Holloway. Max doesn't stop. He's got that forward pressure that I was talking about. He's very aggressive. He likes to systematically break people down, right? Round by round. That's what he's known for doing. And he continues to throw jabs. He throws punches. He does a lot of that. And while he's doing that, he's got that forward pressure, as I was mentioning. His footwork is great. He makes you work. He's the kind of fighter that it's very hard to play defense against him. It's very hard to go offense against him, because most of the time you're spending your time in defense mode because of his forward pressure, right? And that's very dangerous, especially for a guy like Conor McGregor, who's coming off a very long layoff, right? And this is a fighter historically who had a lot of people question his cardio, in his extended fights, whether he had enough in the tank to be able to carry him through some of those rounds. I'm not criticizing Conor McGregor. This is what people are actually saying. This is reality, and we've seen it all to happen. Like we've seen it happen many times before, right? The longer the fights go for Conor McGregor, historically speaking, Conor's output tends to decrease, right? And on the flip side, when you see Max Holloway fight, it's kind of the opposite. The longer the rounds go, the better, the more he starts to improve, and he starts to catch a second win, and then he just keeps going, right? So, anyways, guys, this fight is actually happening at the welterweight level, and I actually think it's a huge, huge storyline in itself, right? Because I mean, a lot of people automatically assume that the bigger fighter tends to have the advantage, and the weight classes, you have to understand, they're there, they exist for a reason, and that's not necessarily the case. I've seen a lot of fighters who look heavier, stronger, bigger, and some of those guys get finished the quickest, right? Look, the fact of the matter is Connor's had a lot of struggles in his life in cutting down to 145 pounds, right? And I mean, look, he's fought at welterweight before. Max Holloway, on the other hand, he spent most of his career at featherweight, and he's occasionally gone up to like lightweight. So on paper, yes, you could say that Connor would have the advantage, so to speak, naturally being the bigger man. But size alone in this one is not going to matter. It's not what's going to win fights. Pressure, pressure is what wins fights. And that's what I'm worried about, because Max Holloway's got that forward pressure. He's aggressive. He makes you work, and he won't stop throwing punches. And if once he gets into his groove, that's where he'll start to outpace you. Once he starts to outpace you, he's going to outposition you, and then you're in trouble, right? So Max Holloway style technically translates to the more he works, the more the output, the stronger the chances of him winning, right? And if he can back Conor McGregor, like if he can back Conor McGregor and make him fight at his pace, if he can start dictating that pace from the early rounds, then suddenly that size difference that we're talking about is completely irrelevant, doesn't even move the needle one iota, right? So, I mean, we're not looking at who's got the harder punch between the two. We're not looking at who looks bigger. I mean, at the end of the day, it's about who's going to be able to get in that octagon and to be able to outwork the other guy. The person who's going to outwork the other guy has a stronger chance of winning, right? And so Max's game plan is he's going to try to go in there, and he's going to try to control the fight from the early rounds, and again, he who controls the fight controls the match to a degree, right? But look, Conor McGregor is, he fights his best as a front footer fighter. He's dangerous when opponents, try to set traps. But when he's backing up, and we've seen this happen with Conor McGregor, with the notorious one many times before. When he starts to back up, he exposes himself. He becomes a lot more vulnerable to those shots, kicks, punches, and that's where he could get into trouble early, right? We've seen opponents pressure him. We've seen them slow him down, and Max knows this. Max has the blueprint on Conor McGregor, and look, you better believe that his entire game plan is going to try to revolve around making Conor feel very uncomfortable, walking him down, that forward pressure, outpacing him, dictating the pace from the beginning, and out jabbing and out punching him, making him work every second. So this is going to be a big, big, uh, exercise for Conor McGregor, because he's going to have to be in the best shape of his life to be able to ward off and to be able to provide any kind of defense against Max Holloway. And so, look, the bigger question right now is, what version of Conor McGregor are we going to see that night? That's the $1 million question. You know, are we going to get the old Conor, or are we going to get glimpses of the old Conor, or are we going to get a new version that might fall to Max Holloway's traps early? I don't know. Is he that explosive sniper still, you know, that took over the sport many years ago, that dangerous left knockout artist? Or is that the kind of Conor McGregor we're going to see? I mean, nobody truly knows. I mean, time will tell. But that's why on paper and just thinking about it, that's what makes this fight so intriguing, because there's so many unknowns. There's so many things that could potentially happen, so many things that could go right, so many things that could go wrong, and that unknown is what creates danger. That danger creates fear, and that's what everybody is going to be tuning in for. So look, I have a prediction. I kind of agree with Rashad Evans to you know, like, uh Rashad is right. I mean, there's a blueprint for Conor McGregor. It's out there and it's simple. He has to command the center. He has to keep Holloway at the end of his shots. He has to make Holloway respect his power. And and above all else, I mean, he's got to make Holloway feel his pressure and not be pressured by Holloway's forward aggression. Because once Max starts like marching forward, he's gonna start pounding those drums, and I think the fight swings heavily in Holloway's favor, right? So that's the key, guys. I mean, this is not, you know, it's not all about the cutting or the increasing of the weight, the weigh-ins. You know, I mean, we could look at Conor McGregor's past fights. You could look at Max Holloway's past fights. It's irrelevant at this point. It's completely irrelevant, because we really don't know what version of Conor McGregor we're going to get. If Conor McGregor fought a few months ago, even last year sometime, it's a different ballgame. It's a different story. We kind of have an idea as to the kind of fighter that we're going to see in the octagon at UFC 329. But in this case, it's really hard to reference his past history when so much has changed in the past 5, 6 years. So anyways, guys, I want to hear your thoughts. Look, if you're enjoying this analysis, please smash the like and subscribe and hit the notifications so you guys never miss a beat. And guys, this is probably one of the most fascinating, exciting comeback fights that we're probably going to see in years. Conor McGregor is still trying to prove he's the ageless wonder and that he belongs amongst the elite in MMA. Now, Max Holloway, on the other hand, is going to try to spoil Conor McGregor's night. And, you know, the question I think everyone's going to be asking is, can Conor McGregor withstand the pressure before the pressure breaks him? I want to hear your thoughts, guys. Do you think Conor McGregor still has enough in the gas tank to leave, or shall I say to beat Max Holloway, blessed about to ruin the biggest comeback in UFC history? Guys, I want to know. Let me know in the comments. This is going to be huge. It's going to really divide a lot of people. But at the end of the day, I want to know what you guys are thinking. And again, the pleasure is all mine. I enjoyed this one. I love doing these kind of like, you know, what if kind of scenarios and stuff, especially for a legendary fighter who's coming back. You know, that in itself, I mean, as a storyline, that in itself is so exciting. But anyways, guys, put your thoughts and comments below. Again, please hype this video, smash a like and subscribe. Pleasure was all mine. I will catch you in the next one.